We begin in Ukraine, where thousands of people are facing major blackouts after another night of intense Russian attacks. The southern port city of Odesa and its power grid came under particularly heavy fire. The government in Kyiv says Russia launched hundreds of drones and at least 30 ballistic missiles overnight. Elsewhere, at least 2 people were reported killed in Russian drone attacks. It's just the latest of many Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. DW's Nick Connolly has been to a power station put out of action by an earlier strike and asks how many more waves of attacks the country's power system can endure.
Just another night in Kyiv. Russian drones and ballistic missiles raining down on Ukraine's capital. These strikes took place in November, but you can find images like these from pretty much any week of 2025. Many missiles are intercepted, but some inevitably reach their targets. In recent months, that's largely been Ukraine's power and heating plants. And this is what the immediate aftermath looks and sounds like on the streets of Kyiv. A rumble of diesel generators dominating the city in darkness. Within a day or two, the situation usually stabilizes. Chaotic outages give way to scheduled power cuts. 10 hours without power become 5, and life feels a little more manageable. That is, until the next attack. The workers at this power station have seen it all before. Between their company's 2 sites, they've dealt with over 200 attacks since the war began. But the most recent strike was by far the biggest to date. Ballistic missiles followed by Shahed drones. There was no chance of downing them all.
Covering an entire power station like the one behind me in its entirety in concrete just isn't realistic, and it's also not very likely to work, given that Russia has proven that it is willing to spend millions of dollars on ballistic missiles that are able to break through the best conventional defences.
It's been over a week since the attack when we visit. These workers are still trying to assess the extent of the damage and save any equipment that may have survived. What makes these attacks so devastating is that most of the equipment can't readily be replaced.
Most of this equipment was produced during the Soviet period. We get help from other countries that also used to be part of the Soviet Union, particularly the Baltic countries. They've sent us very valuable kit in the past. Unfortunately, that was also destroyed in the last attack. Our problem is that modern equipment doesn't match our systems, and even if it can be used here, would be waiting too long for delivery. Right now, we're taking apart everything we have left, and we're trying to put together a few functioning power units.
That means salvaging parts from many damaged power units to build a handful of improvised working replacements. The power company's CEO tells us the only hope of preventing repeat attacks is more and better air defense systems.
Many people didn't believe we'd be able to rebuild after the attacks in 2024. But we did, and we got through that winter against all the odds. Here, there are air raids that often last 12 to 18 hours, and somehow our workers still manage to do their jobs.
So he and Alexei were on duty the night of the most recent attack.
We can't leave the equipment unattended. We have to be there. Everyone else goes to the shelter during air raid alerts, but we can't do that.
One of the missiles hit just 30 meters away from where they were working. This attack, they tell us, came just as they'd almost finished repairs on the plant from a previous strike in 2024.
We usually work nights. That's why we're the ones who are always there for the attacks. We've seen so many that we can tell if it's a Shahed drone, a cruise missile or a ballistic missile just by the blast wave.
Less than 2 weeks after the last strike, said he, Alexei and their colleagues are back at work, trying to provide people across Ukraine with at least a few hours of power a day this winter.